The one and only, give it up for Bruce Boxleitner! Woo! Welcome to Miami.
Is this working?
I think it does,
It
yes.
won't be like David Warner yesterday. Hello, how are you? I'm saying, David,
and then you
put it back a little.
And then you ask him something, he's like, what?
Huh? Yeah. That's why he's speaking so loud. I shouldn't laugh. I'm on my way to the same place, so it's. You know.
I just spent 45 lovely minutes with him, so I just did. Well, awesome, fella. But in your own words, in your own words,
Yeah.
How did it all begin? What brought you into acting?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's so long ago now. I don't know. I'm going to plead David Warner. Oh, that's not a question. You know.
He said that too.
He did. I don't know. I was a young kid. I was just very creative imagination, and I grew up with early television. 66 years old. So 66 years ago, it was 1950, and we had great television. I had Superman. Disney, that was probably my first of all the popularity of superheroes today, DC's, but Superman, George Reeves, who could leap tall buildings with a single bound, and who shot himself. So, well, he did. I mean, poor man. If he could have lived to see what this Superman craze and Marvel, think about it. He might have felt really good about himself. But he felt he was doing something demeaning, and he was imprisoned by it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just a kid who grew up in the Midwest, and was in Illinois, born and raised. And, I just think those things, early television captured me. When I went to the movies, I had a teenage aunt that used to have to babysit me all the time. I was the first of 4 kids, and I was the oldest, so my mother was off having other babies. My aunt had to take care of me. And we went to the movies, and everything from Elvis, John Wayne, and Disney pictures. I remember distinctly 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne. Disney's fabulous picture. Still is a great picture. And I later got to work.
You are prisoners here on the Nautilus.
Yes, James Mason, yes. But, those things sparked and piqued my imagination, I imagine. And I think that's where I realized that's what I wanted to do. I used to watch a television show or a movie, and then I would go play it, I did have a Zorro cape. I had a Davy Crockett coonskin cap. Davy Crockett was the rage of my generation.
Yes, it was.
One of the big, type of thing. And there wasn't a rabbit in America that was safe. Because once that boom happened, everybody had to have a rabbit skin hat. Nobody told us it was bunny rabbit, but...
That's why in Back to the Future, again, they're wearing the coonskin hat.
Yeah, right. But everybody had to have that. So, I don't know, it just goes back to those early things. And when I got to high school, I had an opportunity to try out for the fall play. And I had just flunked out tryouts for the basketball team. So I don't know why I wandered in there. It looked like fun, and I'd never been in a play. So I scored the lead, and I was the first sophomore ever, or freshman, no, when was I, sophomore, to ever do that. You had to be a junior or a senior to have the lead in a play. And I broke that ceiling right there. And the first time I think I was on stage, and the first performance, and then applause. And the audience applauded, and I guess applauded me, and I was bit by the bug right there. And I pursued that, and luckily a high school teacher, and everybody has somebody in their life that was a huge influence, could have been a parent. This was a teacher, because I was not a good student so far as grade-wise, but I loved the Drama Guild, and I did every play, we had a fantastic group anyway of kids through the years. But that woman saw something in me and stuck with it. And she helped me get into the Goodman School of Drama in Chicago at the time, which was a prestigious theater school. And I went right from high school to that. And I was with people that were in their, had already been through college, and they were earning their big degrees and stuff like that. So anyway, long story short, that's what got me going. And if it wasn't for her, I'll always thank her for that. Because I could have probably I'd be pumping gas with 7 kids in Mount Prospect, Illinois, where there isn't a mountain in 1,000 miles. So there it is. Boy, that took up the whole day.
So you dabbled around, married Tyler Moore. You kind of made your bones in 70s
when I got out to the
television.
West Coast, I actually did Broadway. I was more bent on theater at the time. I worked in a lot of Chicago productions then, which is a very good theater town if you're ever there. And I walked in and auditioned for the understudy to the lead of a very popular show that was currently then in Chicago that was just standing room only every night. And little did I know that I got the audition. I just finished the Goodman School of Drama, and I was in their professional company, but I walked out and saw this because a buddy of mine said, you look a lot like the guy that's playing the lead up there at the Ivanhoe Theater. You need to go in there. They're looking for an understudy. Well, basically, I got cast because they were taking that play to the Arena Stage in Washington, D.C., and they were going to dump him.
Ooh.
It's a dirty business.
Tell me about it.
And I walked into the lead at Arena Stage and later took that to Broadway in 1972. With another young guy named Ted Danson, and I don't know whatever happened to him.
Wherever you are, Ted, good luck to you.
Good luck to you, brother.
Yeah.
No, he's a great guy. And then I, through various reasons, decided to get out of New York and go west, young man.
And west you did.
I did.
And in one case, you went west into Gunsmoke.
I did Gunsmoke and Mary Tyler Moore Show.
You did several episodes of Hawaii Five-0. What was that like?
That was great because that was going
Jack Lord and his perfect hair.
Jack Lord, who actually liked me, and he didn't like any guest artists. He didn't like him. He told them to get off his island.
He was, he was notorious.
He was the Lord of Oahu. And, but anyway, that was a great one because I was young. It was the 70s. It was like 74, 73, 74, 5, somewhere around there, 76. And they liked me, and I came back to do 3 of them.
3 of them, yeah.
And it was great. You went to Hawaii. I stayed at the, oh my God, I forget, the Kahala Hotel on Oahu, and I saved all my per diem money. And back then, no cell phones, so I would call the mainland and say to my agent, do you need me for the next 2 weeks? Is there anything coming up? He said, I'll let you know, just keep in touch. And I bummed around the Hawaiian Islands as a kid after the show was over.
Hawaii Five-0 became a very sought-after gig for a free Hawaiian vacation.
Oh, it was. It was that. Yeah. So.
Then you went back to the West, How the West Was Won. And
Thank you. That was 1975. I started, I kind of hit the ground running. I got the 74. I did have an agent, and that's the one thing I got out of New York that I actually took with me to L.A. And, I wanted to be in the Western so bad because that was one of the, when I grew up, the Western was the predominant genre on television. Mm-hmm. It was predominant still in movies. And there were like 30-some TV series on television at one time that were all Westerns. And Gunsmoke was a very favorite one because it was something my parents really liked. It was more of an adult drama.
And the fact it was on 22 years, so you had multiple generations of fans.
Yes, you did. And longest running hour drama still to this day on television. And anyway, I did an episode of Gunsmoke, and Pam Polifroni, who is a woman who was a casting agent, and her company cast all of CBS's shows and all of those things. So they saw me on Mary Tyler Moore, then Gunsmoke, and I started to work around that lot in small parts. It was, 5 lines here, 10 lines here, whatever it was. And my part started to grow. And then I did a lot of stuff before this pilot came around for ABC. It was called The McCahans. And it was going to be shot at MGM. Now, this is after 75. Gunsmoke finally went off the air in 1975. And they went over, Jim Arness and his company went over to MGM with this project to do with an actress named Eva Marie Saint and her husband. and it was a big deal. And they were going to do this big sprawling Western. They were going to shoot on location up in Colorado and Utah and Arizona, Northern California, and in Southern California. And the role of a young James Arness played this big mountain man, and who comes back east during the Civil War, to kind of takes his family out of the war, and heads west. And the part of his nephew was a very important part, and I got to audition for that. They remembered me from the Gunsmoke episode, and I auditioned with about 20 other guys, all dressed in the same Western outfit. It was hilarious to look at it over the MGM soundstage, and we did screen tests, and I actually did 2 of them. My first one, somehow the lighting didn't look right or something, and they asked me back to do it again. And it all fell to Mr. Arness, who at that time was a TV icon. He still is a television icon. He was a protege of John Wayne, who got him the role of, in Gunsmoke. Anyway, long story short, he saw my screen test at MGM with the head of ABC, who was pushing for another actor. I won't mention his name because he later became a big science fiction icon on television. And they kept saying, we'd like you to look at this first fella here, this first screen test. And Jim kept going, no, I kind of like that third fella. And they say, yeah, but Jim, we're really behind, we really think he's got the number 1 here, this fella here. And he said, no, he was big enough star, he had casting approval.
Yeah.
And I'll always...
A hit show for 22 years, you eventually get that kind of clout.
He was a powerful guy. And he stuck with me. And, it's one of those things in life, if that decision had not been made, if he went with number 1 and said, I don't care who it is, my life probably would have been very different. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. So it changed my entire life, and gave him my biggest break. And I went on for 3 years with him, and I did 2 movies with him, aside from How the West Was Won. So.
Yeah.
And then that went on. It put me on the map, and I did a lot of miniseries, East of Eden and things like that. They were very prestigious. They were wonderful. And around the 1980s, Pam Polifroni comes into my life again. She's casting this Disney picture called Tron. And that's where that started. And it was actually...
Here's the interesting thing I got to ask up front about Tron.
On.
Did they tell you, you're the title character, but you're not necessarily the main character?
Right.
Okay.
No. I didn't care at that time.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
First of all, I did know Jeff Bridges from The Last Picture Show, Badlands. Oh my God, there was a number of movies young Jeff had done. And as all actors in Hollywood do, you sort of scope out your competition. You scope out who's the guy, who's the gal that's happening right now, and you're watching them. And Jeff was one of those guys, And on How the West Was Won, though, I have to say, I worked with his father, Lloyd Bridges, in a 4-part sequence, it was like, I don't know how many episodes, of How the West Was Won, where he played this small-town sheriff that befriends me, and I'm an outlaw and everything like that. But anyway, and I fall in love with his daughter. It's a wonderful part. And Lloyd was great, and he kept saying to me, you remind me of my son, Jeff. How ironic that was, That only a few years later, just a few years later, I'd be working with Jeff, and I constantly told him, I think your dad loved me more than he loved you.
Oh!
I used to tease him a lot about that. Because, Jeff, he used to tell me stories. He'd say, Jeff, come on, let's go out and swim in the ocean. Let's go out and swim a mile out and swim a mile back. I'll race you. And he would be going, no, Dad, I'm listening to Talking Heads, man. And he wanted to sit in his room and with his earphones on and listen to whomever. You know what I would have done? I'd have swam with Lloyd. So anyway, thus began that movie,
Yeah, and that of course go to. Well, bouncing to Tron for a second, so I want to talk about that and the sequel. Talk a little bit about Bring 'Em Back Alive.
Okay.
Those you may not know, which was in the wash of the craze of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, it was. Like in those days, when there was a big hit movie franchise like that, television, obviously Star Wars, there was Battlestar Galactica, which was sued by George Lucas because it was just too close looking to Star Wars at the time. But we did, there were two, for CBS and one for ABC. One for CBS and one for ABC. Tales of the Gold Monkey was one I was offered.
You were offered that?
Yes, I was.
Wow.
But I had a previous handshake and verbal commitment with the head of television for CBS to do a series for them. And, you know, damn me, I was too honorable. I could have gone on and done that. But we only lasted one season
it was
each.
one season apiece.
Yeah.
But what a cast you had. I mean, it was yourself, Ron O'Neal.
Ron O'Neal, who was Superfly.
Yes.
Back in the day.
And
I was so thrilled about that because I loved Superfly.
And he was really trying to break out of that.
Yes, he was, and he was marvelous.
Yeah, he was trying to break out of the blaxploitation images. Everything else. Frank, just the name, Frank Brock.
Frank Buck.
Frank Buck, yes.
Well, he was an actual, I was based on an actual guy. He was in the 1920s and 30s. Most of your zoos in the United States had some influence by him. He actually did bring them back alive. He was a big game hunter, but he hunted them either to help preserve them because they were being, made extinct, and to bring them to the zoos through the world so that might be their last stand, But he was a swashbuckling. He was this Texas guy that mainly was in Southeast Asia, in Singapore and
Burma
Malaysia
area,
and Burma and all that area.
You saw on the map at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was just like.
But he was a perfect character to be sort of an Indiana Jones of. Instead of a bullwhip, I had a lasso. He was a Texas cowboy that had gone to the Far East, and so I learned to rope. I was right-handed. I did learn that already doing my Western work, but so I kind of had that skill with me. And CBS liked it. We were put on opposite the 10th season of Happy Days. And it was a juggernaut. And it was so tough. We actually did come second every Tuesday night on CBS to ABC's Happy Days. But they felt they wanted to try after whatever, in 18, 19 episodes, whatever we did. But I rode elephants. I wrestled an alligator. I was in a tree with a panther.
I don't remember.
I was in bed with an African lion once in a scene.
Please tell me you were in quicksand at least once.
I was in quicksand at least once. Yeah. I swung like Tarzan through and I had a greatest old truck that I drove through the jungle, and I had my guy Ali with me, and Clyde Kazatsu was a wonderful actor. We had a ball. It was we shot it. The pilot, a large segment was on the island of Kauai, and where they had shot Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Amazon sequences. So anyway, great time.
And that opened the door. It failed down, but I think that kind of set you up for Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
Yeah, Bud Grant, who was the head of CBS. Do you know who Bud Grant is?
Wow.
Anyway,
we're very aware here in Florida.
He said, "Look, we're not going to go with that anymore, but I think we've got something better for you." And I actually did have a choice between two different series, and I think I made the right choice. And I thought,
what was the other one?
Well, the other one was called The Yellow Rose. It was with, oh my gosh, what's her name? Sam Elliott and somebody else. And it was a contemporary Western about this big modern ranch, sort of AKA like Dallas, And that would have been a natural for me. I was prone to that. But I looked at this other funny little story, and it was funny to me. It was kind of quirky. It was about a spy who gets this housewife involved with him in a caper, and they like her work in it, and she ends up being a pain in his ass every episode because he's trying to get rid of her, but she's actually works, and then they start to form this wonderful, quirky relationship. And of course, in the 80s, we had these couple shows. Heart to Heart started it, and later Moonlighting was sort of the end game of it. It was the finish of it. Remington Steele at that time, where they were about a season ahead of us. So when they came on Monday nights, and Kate Jackson and I had a fantastic time until Katie got ill. She did, and that's why we had to quit. She had cancer, and she's still with us. She beat it, but thank God. And But it was probably that was the most popular show I was ever in. I mean, I love to say to all the sci-fi people, Tron and Babylon 5, they didn't come anywhere near to the popularity of Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Because
before we get to Babylon 5, do you have any recollections from Tales from the Crypt?
John Lovitz.
Yes.
Had me in stitches the entire time. And, oh my God, my mind just went
John
blank.
Astin?
John Astin.
Gomez Adams.
Gomez Adams. Oh my God. Between these two guys, we couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. They were like all comedians. Generally, they're very sad people. They're on all the time. And
John Astin is a dynamo. I've interviewed him before, and he is Gomez.
Yes, and his eyes would pop out of his head.
Yeah.
I mean, probably that far out. I mean, it was like amazing.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And that was real quickly. This Tales from the Crypt. It was wonderful. We were two actors. John Lovitz considers himself a very serious Shakespearean actor. Me, I'm Mr. Square-jawed, and I'm Mr. Commercial actor. He despises me. And, we're blah, blah, blah. He's always in competition, and I get the role because why? I have the look. And he's just... So there's these flyers going around, auditions for Hamlet. And it's at some sort of thing down by the docks, some theater, and everybody's going, what? Okay, we'll give it a try. So we both show up at the door to audition for Hamlet. By this time, he's lost his agent, John. Everything's gone wrong in his life. He's lost his girlfriend has left him for Lars the Muscle Man, And you picture John. And his agent's thrown him out, so everything's gone wrong. He's going to get this part of Hamlet. He's going to do the penultimate Hamlet and show everybody. So we get there, and we go in, and there's this insane, the door opens, and the first AD comes out, or the stage manager, and he comes out, and, oh, you're wonderful, yes. And so he has us come in, and John Astin is this crazed director. You, stop where you are, and he's like, and he looks at me, and he looks at John, and he goes, you. And I look at him, and, I get snarky with him here, with John, because I've got the look. I've got the cheek. He says the cheekbones, the jaw. Well, what we don't know is, and I'll just jump to the end of this, that this is an insane asylum in which all of the inmates have revolted and killed the entire staff, because you'll later find out that the whole other place is full of dead blood bodies everywhere, and they're putting on their production of Hamlet. And what I don't realize is that, which you don't know until the end, is that John strangles me in the dressing room from the back with a cord. And just as I'm looking at the tag that's itching in the back, I'm in this doublet, this Hamlet costume. I turn around and it goes, and I go, what? Just as he grabs a hold, he strangles me to death. He gets in the wardrobe and he doesn't realize that he's playing the part of Yorick. That's the skull that Hamlet holds. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew you well. I knew him well, Horatio. And so you're going to lose your head, man, and they're going to put it out there. And they throw his face out. I love it, the ultimate thing. They threw his face out in the alley during the credits. You could see his bare face and a dog. And then the first one before it got edited, the dog comes and lifts his leg on it. So the final thing happens to him. But John
you got away with a clean death.
Yeah, he did. I got away with a clean death. That's right. I didn't get my neck, But it was hilarious, absolutely hilarious thing. If you ever catch it, I think there's YouTube of it as well.
This probably is floating around YouTube, various sources, stuff like that.
But,
and speaking of getting thrown into things, let's go on to Babylon 5, where how did that go about? Because you replaced Michael O'Hare, who had to leave the show for reasons at the time we did not know, and now of course we do. How did that evolve? Where you were like, you've got to take over the show?
I had done a Western with Sam Elliott in 1979 called Wild Times, a television one. And the producer was a guy named Douglas Netter, and who happened to be the co-producer, an executive producer of this Babylon 5. Now, I had never really seen it. I think I saw one episode. One thing I did find unique about it, it was much darker. Star Trek is so bright, and all the shows were very bright. This had the...
Do that again.
Whatever you're doing. Watch, it's me. No, okay, now it doesn't even work. Anyway, that's what I saw of it, and then I get this. My agent got a call from Doug Netter. I didn't know anything about the show, basically, and then I got offered the role of the lead in an ensemble piece. I will never say I was not the star of that. Everybody was the star of that because it was a great ensemble. Yeah. But they had to have a captain, a leader. It's just space opera. That's the way it is, you know. You have a captain. William Shatner started all that. So anyway, I went in there and I read the script. I saw they sent me some of the episodes. What I didn't know is that it was in danger of going off. They had played their first season. ABC, what was it? It was Warner Brothers was not happy with certain elements of it, and the lead guy being one of them, and they were going to replace him. And boy, did I walk into a hornet's nest, because diehard Babylon 5 fans of the first season did not understand and saw me, and I got the wrath of Khan on me, man. I want to tell you. That's and it did. I mean, the early emails and things like that at that time. I think speaking of that, Babylon 5 came up with the internet, the rise of the popularity of the internet. It was one of those things. They had guest chat rooms, and I mean, they had all kinds of things.
And the AOL chat room days, and very much so.
So, but it was something I really liked. It answered a lot of things for me. I was always going on location for projects. Before this, I wanted to stay home and sleep in my own bed. You know, go to work, come home, get up and go to work again. It answered everything, and I thought the material was absolutely fascinating, the story. And when I was told, when I went and visited the studio, and I sat down with J. Michael Straczynski and Doug Netter and all the staff, it was just, how could I not say yes?
Did Straczynski lay out his 5-year plan for you?
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, I didn't want to know the 5-year plan. I never wanted to know from week to week what was going to happen next, and I never asked. A lot of the actors wanted that. I couldn't do it. I said, I'm playing John Sheridan. He doesn't know what's coming ahead. I don't want to know what's coming ahead. I want to play it as it comes. And we did, you know. Obviously, when we got into those things, you know, the Shadow War, which was this long build-up to it, I knew it was not going to come to a very good end. Yeah. And when I finally kicked him out of the galaxy, it was over.
And on that
I didn't have to blow him up.
Let's start taking some questions. This young man, come on up.
All right, I have 2 questions. One's going to be more professional, and the other one's going to be really crazy. So I'll start with the professional first, so that you have something normal to think about while I tell you a crazy thing. I really liked you in that Outer Limits episode where you were a candidate for U.S. president.
Yes. It's called decompression. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was one of the best things you've ever done. It reminded me of like some of the best episodes of Babylon 5 where you're like, you bastards.
Yeah, yeah.
So
actually, thank you, because it's probably, when asked what's your favorite show, I never mention it because it's obscure. It's an Outer Limits episode.
Yeah, it's like a one-shot.
You know, it's a one-off, and it's probably some of my favorite work I ever did.
Well, tell me a story about that, but I was going to tell you a couple of years ago when I was watching cable with a friend of mine, he decided to try the drink Everclear for the first time in his life. And he drank half a bottle of it. So he was really drunk to the point that he was hallucinating. But then on the TV came on a movie you had done where you were like a sheriff and you got possessed by a spirit of a Native American warrior.
Yeah.
And you started riding like an undead horse on the highway going like 90 miles per hour.
I was riding a horse.
At that point, my friend said, Captain Sheridan just got possessed by the ghost of an Indian. He's going down the expressway on fire. He ran out of the building and he disappeared for half an hour. So anyways, regarding that movie, could you tell us just a story about that?
Well, you know, you're kind of between things, and it's a long stretch, and there's no work, and this came, and I got to stay home. You know, I got to shoot on location not far from my home. And unfortunately, I never mentioned the title because somebody thought I had my career really took a dive, and I was in the porn industry. It was called Bone Eater. It was for the Sci-Fi Channel. Okay, that gives it no legitimacy, by the way. So, Bone Eater, yeah. And Gil Gerard of Buck Rogers was also played my deputy in that. Yeah, I don't even have to go through that. The CGI was so god-awful. Oh, my God. I had to throw this prop jaw of a cow basically made into this Native American sacred warrior's axe. And I threw it. It broke in my hand before I threw it. It just shattered all over the place. But you do things. Some of the script was actually not bad. But once we got to the Apache ghost thing and all that, it was really ludicrous. Well, some things we do for money, you know.
Thank you, man.
I didn't get a convention in a long time, so, you know.
Hello, my name is Rebecca, and I just wanted to say I'm a huge Babylon 5 fan, so I'm really, really honored to be here and, like, meet you. It's
nice to meet
really
you, Rebecca.
Exciting. One of the things that Straczynski came out with here recently was that he'd had an idea for B5 where some of the characters swap. Like, you would be playing Jakar, and that actor would be playing you. I was wondering what your thoughts were about that.
Who said that?
Straczynski did.
Oh, what is he smoking?
He said that the television told him that it was too crazy of an idea to pull
The
off.
television told him that?
The producer.
I know. Oh, okay, I thought because, you know, JMS never slept as far as I ever knew. He was like up all night writing these things. I thought maybe he'd been up
Because he
too
wrote
late.
all of them.
Yeah, he did. He wrote them all. I think he's still in a record book somewhere.
Yeah,
there.
yeah, he is.
I don't know that would really have worked, and I would not have wanted to play Jakar. Jakar will always be Andreas Katsoulis.
Yeah.
That character is now, I agree with you, that character is up on a mantle now. He can never be touched again, you know?
I also just wanted to ask if there was anything you wanted to do in Babylon 5 you didn't get a chance to do. Anything in particular?
You know, what I loved about that character, I got to do everything. You guys all know that. I got to go from A to Z. I mean, there were funny episodes. I got to do just about everything. It's the best written material I ever did in my career. And, you know, I don't miss it. Do I want to do it again? No. That was then. This is now. That's why I hate to rain on anybody, but people always want to see it again. And I would say to you, it's very hard to capture lightning in a bottle twice, you know. That special group of actors, writing, situation, time, place, can't do it again, you know. And we've lost 4 of our, you know, wonderful actors, and I would be too heartbreaking to even try to replace them. I, you know, can't. So
Okay.
I'm glad you love it, though.
What are you dressed as, by the way, in the red robes?
I'm Sorcerer Mickey. I put the hat
Oh.
under the chair because I'm like,
Sorcerer's Apprentice. Okay, cool.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
What was the best thing about working on Tron, and what was the worst thing about working on Tron?
Well, the best was I was doing a feature film for Disney, who I am an original Disney kid, you know, going way back to the 50s. So that was magic, you know, playing in something original, an original story, and an interesting concept. And thank God for storyboards, because we had no idea what this thing was going to look like. Bruce Logan just left the room. Okay, he was in there. He was one of the pioneers of that movie. And one of the best things was working with Jeff, David. I mean, for actors, it's generally who you get to work with. I got to work with a rising, a young director who was his first-time movie director, which was an intense experience, I guarantee you. But doing a big feature film, I'm basically a television guy. I have only a few feature film credits, and this was an opportunity. You know, also it was the name of the movie. You know, my character, and I always go back. Working with the dude was pretty cool. You know, and still is, by the way. So the worst thing, having to wear a dance belt. Do you notice in the movie my voice is a little higher? I had a very deep voice back then. Okay. I kind of was up here like this. I'm Tron. I don't need to go any further with that.
Thanks.
Thank you. What was it like that when you first got sized up and looked at yourself? Oh, you're like,
oh boy, I thought I was cool, man. I strutted around a lot and got thrown out of the commissary for strutting around too much, half naked. So
on that note, Captain,
hey,
tell us,
how are you? Yes, sir.
Well, you kind of answered my question, but is that when your character was throwing out in time in Babylon 5, we see that in the future, Sheridan was in a jail cell, London's jail cell.
Yeah.
And then in the movie in the beginning, Jill was telling the story, and your character was still in that jail cell. And I was always wondering, where is the movie that explains me what he's doing in that jail cell? And was when we'll ever going to see that, but you kind of...
Well, that's why Babylon 5 should have been about a 10-year series.
Yeah, you should.
I won't go into that because I get into...
smoking what he's smoking and write it.
No, I will get in trouble with JMS if I talk because you see everything everywhere nowadays. So I got caught in Australia a little. I had a few too many drinks at a Q&A, and because they drink a lot in Australia, and I wanted to be a part of the, people. So you know what? To answer your question specifically, only he could answer that. There were a lot of flash forwards, flashbacks, and things like that. Probably my favorite episodes as Sheridan, though, was where I was a prisoner. And who was the interrogator? Who was that guy? But I was held there for almost 3 episodes or more, being interrogated. What was he? The Inquisitor, it was called. And what was that called? Something in real time? No. Why? Intersections in real time. I depend on the fans. But and there I went through. I was tortured constantly and everything like that. But I know what cell scene you're talking about, and we didn't get to finish a lot of storylines. You had to be told about them.
Yeah, I was hoping for the movie.
Yeah.
Were we all?
We're still waiting for that phone call. But like I said, I don't know about doing it again. But if they wanted to do a feature film, certainly I would do that. Are you kidding me?
Thanks a lot.
I'd be the old president by then, but just grow my beard back, and here we go.
Thanks a lot.
You're
the
welcome.
best
Thank
captains ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's up, Shazam?
Thank you. First off, I wanted to compliment you on your shirt. Thank you for the Edgar Rice Bros.
Yes.
Because I'm a big John Carter fan, so it's always nice to meet another one.
And go see the Tarzan movie. It's very good. I don't care what anybody says. It's very, very good.
I wanted to ask you a couple things. Number one, if you could tell us if there's anything going on with Lantern City.
Lantern City is a series from Boom Studios, Archaea Studios, where I forget how many. My younger partners have taken over that, but it is now a great graphic novel series. It's doing very well in the comic stores, and it's the best storyboards, so if we ever get this going, we don't even have to think up anything. We just do the storyboard. But they're beautiful looking. I highly recommend them. Go to the Lantern City TV series site on Twitter, and I think we're on Facebook. Verena, is it on Facebook? Yeah, Facebook as well. And you'll find out, because there's like 7, 8, 9, maybe issues now. I have the first 7 that are fantastic. So.
And I wanted to ask you about Babylon 5. You spoke a little bit about this, but what did you take away from Sheridan's arc? Because he starts as this war hero, this action hero, and then he matures along with the relationship with Delenn and all that great stuff.
And that's what it was meant to do. He was meant to, start as a younger, sort of hotshot maverick fighter pilot of the day. That kind of mentality with the swagger and all that sort of thing, and eventually became a more mature man and more mature commander, and then obviously the president.
So what was that like for you to be able to go through that arc?
It's wonderful because you're right. You're exactly right. It does not happen. You generally play a one-off character, and they may have with the story, but I got to play a life, and that was cut short, and then I got 20 years from that goofy guy down in that hole in the ground. Lorianne, remember? I got 20 more years, so to finish what I was to do. Well, it was a hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, that was a great influence on that, and it was wonderful. Like I said, it was the best material I ever got to work with. I got to go every range of emotion, and wonderful people to work with. So,
All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
I wanted to ask, your characters, John Sheridan, went through so many different arcs of developing, combining so many great elements of different characters. Was there anyone you drew inspiration from in terms of portraying all of these great qualities that you?
Well, I always told William Shatner that he was my inspiration. He loved it, by the way.
Really?
Actually, I'll tell you a little thing. I had a project with him that we shopped around town briefly, around Hollywood. But they mainly wanted to meet everybody that they come in, let's talk about it, let's see it. But they never picked it up. They just wanted to meet him. But I dug it. I dug hanging with him.
Whatever that was, Kickstarter it. We'll kick
Yeah,
in.
I'm telling you, it's still there. If he wanted to, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Your question's got a lot of facets there. The inspiration, I think, probably was, I didn't need a lot because it was so well written. But I think, I remember Forbidden Planet. I remember Nemo, the Nautilus, Jules Verne. I think there were a lot of the classic science fiction heroes, even John Carter, in those writings. I mean, JMS is an encyclopedia of science fiction. There isn't anything you could put by him. And he certainly knew every heroic role in classic science fiction. I still have the leather bound of the Lord of the Rings that he gave me. And he said one summer, after our first season, he said, if you want a good summer read, seriously, I suggest you read this. Now, I remember The Hobbit, and I hadn't really gotten into all of it. I remember The Hobbit way back when. But he gave me that, and he said, with the hint of, it would behoove you to know the Lord of the Rings so that you got the idea of this. You got the whole thing. All those story arcs, all those arcs and characters. My character was once, before he became Sheridan, he was actually going to be John Strider. Oh. Think about it. Yeah. Okay? And then there was Stryker, Stryker, which was John Wayne in The Sands of Iwo Jima, John Stryker, Sergeant John Stryker. Then we talked, and this is a little vague with me, but we talked about it. And, I'm a big Civil War history buff, too. And I had horses. I had a little ranch at the time. And I was talking about the cavalry. And, the uniforms that we were wearing were World War II, based on the World War II Eisenhower jacket and slacks, dress uniform of the Army Air Corps wore in the Second World War. Because it was originally supposed to be a retro look at the future, a retro sci-fi. So more like what Leslie Nielsen wore in Forbidden Planet, kind of like that. Anyway,
I know Straz is a huge fan of Forbidden Planet.
Yes, he is.
That's his favorite movie.
Yes, I think so. I even thought he wanted to make it at some time, do a new remake of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, my character actually is kind of the future of was General Phil Sheridan, who was the commander of the cavalry in the Civil War. And Sheridan was kind of a cavalryman's name, and I love that. I have an ancestor who was a cavalryman in the Civil War. So kind of brought those kind of little elements. He wanted to know all my favorite characters in fiction, history. I had to list all of them. I had to write them all down. And so all those facets of that are in the character,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello again, Mr. Boxleitner.
Pavel.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's a pleasure talking to you earlier. I
Yes.
hope I didn't slaughter your last name.
It's okay. Boxleitner has been slaughtered many times.
First of all, I want to say big thank you for giving us a wonderful part of John Sheridan.
Thank you.
Really love the show. I love the character. I think, to me, it's always going to be the best captain of any sci-fi TV show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I just have one question. I was always curious. if you could tell me who your favorite character on Babylon 5 was, and by that I don't mean the actor itself, I mean the actual character being portrayed by the actor, and why?
There would definitely have to be Jakar. I never worked with an actor who so transcended the heavy prosthetic makeup that he was wearing. And I always tell this story. When I first got on the show, I never got to meet the cast. You know, they were all working. When I got on there to start doing my parts of it, he was already in heavy makeup. Yeah. Now, I will have to also say Peter and,
Peter Jurassic.
Right, Lando Malari and him. Those two. First of all, they're the biggest scene stealers ever. and they threw me in there amongst them, and I was fighting for my life, not only trying to catch up with everybody, but now I'm with, Manny Moe and Jack here. They're eating the scenery, basically. But I have to say, and Peter, I love him, because he was also in Scarecrow and Mrs. King. He was, so he was just marvelous. And another one who was such a trained actor and brought such a well-rounded, he was as bad as they could be, right? Malari, and yet you loved him. That's the secret of great acting. He made if you can say humanity, even for a Centauri. But Jakar was a character that I think everyone, every race, color, and creed could understand and identify with. And Andreas just had this ability about him. The son of a bitch smoked himself to death at 57. I'm angry at him for that because I still think, you know what, there was so much more this man was going to do. I asked us, please, would you come back when you guys wrap? I'm going to be working the rest of the night. Would you come back so I can meet you? Because I don't know what your face looks like, wow. With that makeup and those beady red eyes. I'm serious.
And there was no internet database to click on to.
Yeah, there was no database
it's
to
the
go.
one-armed man from The Fugitive.
IMDb, come on. So the one-armed man. So, but he, to me, every time I worked with him, I was nearly in tears. Because I just thought he was so incredible. And the guy, like I said, and I don't mean to be disparaging him, because I love the man dearly. And you couldn't get him to stop smoking, and he'd sit out dressed in his full Jakar outfit out in the back parking lot in 110-degree heat, impervious, just, impervious, and go through half a pack right there. He and Jerry Doyle, by the way, every time they said cut, they're racing for the exit to have a cigarette. So wow. I'd get pissed at him, and I was Captain Sheridan. I'd order him back in, But I loved them both, I loved everybody on that show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel. Thank you.
And this gentleman will have to be our last question from the gallery.
So when you came into Babylon 5, as you come in the second season, how did the cast take that, you replacing Michael O'Hare? Obviously a completely different type of character and all. So.
Yeah. He was actually kind of a darker and more contemplative and stoic character. I was kind of a hothead and all kinds of things. They were wonderful because, well, basically they were going to lose their jobs. And if I was on a real trial basis, Warner Brothers, obviously I had done 6 years at that time on the Warner Brothers lot, so they knew me very well, Warner Brothers did. And when I came on, they wanted somebody with at least some kind of a name recognition. Unfortunately, you hadn't. And so they were wonderful. And my first scenes were all with Claudia Christian, and she was just jumping for joy. I don't know. They kept saying I brought a different energy to it. And that's about all I had to go on, because I had to run to keep up with these people. They were well-oiled. They were into their characters already. They'd already had 22 stabs at it, right? Every week. And I had to run to keep up. So I did, and I felt, that everybody was with me on that, Thank you.
And speaking of people keeping up with you, where can our audience follow you on social media? Do you have any outlets?
I'm on Twitter at Boxleitner Bruce, and then I have my Bruce Boxleitner fan page on Facebook. So.
And you are with us the rest of the day at your booth?
And tomorrow as well.
Hey, you're with us tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our guest.
Thank you.
A round of applause for yourself as well. Amazing questions. Thank you so much.